Welcome back, visitors and loyal companions alike. I am Veron, and this is Just Another Voice. Today I will be discussing a few brief thoughts about The Batman. This is not necessarily a review channel, so I don't plan on reacting to every major film that comes out just to react to it. But when I have strong feelings about something, I want to talk about it. And I was so excited for this movie that I feel like I have to talk about how I walked away from it. I wanted to make and release this video as soon as I saw the movie in the very first showing at my theater, but for various reasons, including my own poor use of time, I've been forced to take the time to think about what I most want to say about this film since seeing it, and watching a few other reviewers in the meantime has helped me decide what to address. So I'll not be tackling every aspect of the film, every little thing I liked or disliked, but I want to give a broad sense of how I felt and then hone in on some key points. While I won't necessarily be giving any major spoilers, I will be assuming you have already seen the film, so you might want to go watch it first so you can engage in the comments where all the real discussion happens. Of course, if you like what you see, please like and subscribe, and of course, share this video with anyone you know who might be interested. First off, while I don't love ratings because they can be so arbitrary, they can still be useful, so I'm going to give The Batman a solid 8 out of 10. My brief positive review is that this is easily my favorite Batman film of all time. Not film featuring Batman, Batman film. There's a difference. Primarily because of Robert Pattinson's characterization, which just exudes Batman every second he is on screen, in and out of the cowl. Not to mention literally every other performance in this film. And of course for Greg Fraser's award-worthy evocation of Gotham, which is truly a character in and of itself more tangible and believable, and simultaneously more uniquely unreal than any iteration before. And don't forget Michael Giacchino's score, which enhanced the tension and emotion of every moment, and added to the tremendous personality of everyone and everything. And of course, Matt Reeves' whole vision, perfectly understanding Batman like no other directors, that brought it all together. It truly felt like the comics had come to life in all their hauntingly atmospheric beauty, yet with complete and total realism. Never in a comic book film have I felt like absolutely nothing was sacrificed from the pages, while also being so convincingly immersive that I honestly believed it could be real. I will shortly get into problems, but while some films like The Dark Knight would arguably beat this one in a side-by-side film comparison for reasons I will get into, this is easily the greatest Batman movie ever. For once, all the characters, including the city itself, but especially the hero, feel ripped straight from the comics with the perfect understanding and the unparalleled artistic talent necessary. Alright, I didn't have a problem with the length itself at all. The ending just needed a rewrite of some kind. The third act wasn't too long, in my opinion. It just sort of lost its steam as it devolved into standard superhero action set piece. Could it have been completely cut? Sure, but I don't think it needed to be. Just justified somehow. A film can get away with any runtime as long as it uses every minute of it, but this sequence just feels unnecessary. Of course, the Riddler's motivations for this final act don't make a whole lot of sense, nor does how it was all orchestrated, but more fundamentally, it just doesn't feel like the culmination of anything for Bruce. The reason this sequence feels flat compared to the rest of the movie is the lack of personal stakes Batman has in this last fight. It's just about stopping the bad guys, and in that way, it's a complete contrast to the rest of the movie. The Dark Knight avoided the trap of simply going big for the climax, ending with an emotional, intense sequence that I don't think I've ever heard anyone complain about, despite not being a particularly action-packed scene. I am honestly surprised with all the nuance of this film that it fell for this basic trap. The Batman tried to fix that problem by having Bruce decide to become a symbol of hope instead of fear at the end of it. But that moment just didn't feel earned because it's not clear what led him to that point. What made him decide to change his goal in his crusade? Where was the setup for that change? And frankly, I'm not sure how I feel about that arc anyway. The reason Batman and Superman as a duo is so cool is because of their juxtaposition. Superman represents hope, Batman represents fear. In methods and purpose, they are polar opposites. Batman is fear, he is vengeance, and while learning to become a hero rather than a vengeful vigilante is a great arc, completely changing what he represents as a hero, though. Look, what this film meant to do was to show Bruce starting out as a tortured, broken individual, coping with his trauma by creating a persona that, by becoming, he could overcome and conquer his fear, his pain. He created the Batman not as a symbol for Gotham, but as a sick coping mechanism that he uses to vent his pain, his anger on those he sees as the cause of it, to prove that he is more than that scared, powerless boy in the alley. That was what Pattinson's Bruce embodied, unlike Bale's, who knew why he was doing what he was doing from the beginning, and was selfless in doing so. And that is why I love this performance here, more than any other Batman we have seen on the screen. He showed us what someone who dresses up as a bat every night to assault criminals in alleyways as a response to personal trauma would really look like. And this movie meant to show him becoming something more, turning that coping mechanism into a force for good. That's what Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson promised to give us. And you know what? I think they could have delivered a better movie than The Dark Knight itself if they had actually done that. But they just never did. They never followed through on that promise. They never truly dived into Bruce's head to confront what really drives him. They never forced Bruce to address his real motivations for his crusade. And though they do make him become a symbol for Gotham in the end, it doesn't feel like an earned arc. There's not much of a journey along the way, not a particularly strong character through line, which immensely frustrated me because it's what I was most hoping for, a story driven by Batman rather than the villains. And while Batman was the focus more than the antagonists for sure here, he didn't drive the story as much as the plot. And last of all, almost as a side note, I'm just frustrated that they had to make The Batman into a movie about white privilege. Let me be delicate here because I want to stay as apolitical as possible on this channel, and frankly, that's exactly my point. There was no need to get political. You know, I could have brushed Selina's comment off as her understandable worldview if that view wasn't perpetuated and enforced throughout the whole movie, with the disgusting embodiment of everything wrong with the city's political system being a conservative white male, and the young progressive black woman who's really going to save Gotham, never having anything negative ever suggested of her. I probably would have cut the whole white male bit out of Selina's comment, so it's just privileged a-holes, but even just leave that, and then at some point have Selina make some comment about how Bella Real is no different from all the other politicians despite her appearance, policies, or promises, and she won't make any real change because she doesn't really know what it's like to be in the crappy situation most of Gotham is in any more than any of the other privileged a-holes in Gotham's elite. At least then it would feel less like she in the film were taking such a blatant political stance and making everything all about race. It would just be a film about the nature and effects of corruption in society, in a much less controversial way. Everyone could be on board regardless of politics, and it's the exact same message ultimately. See, I'm not against popular film being a vehicle for some forms of messaging, but it shouldn't be divisive, especially in something like The Batman. But I want to end on a positive note. The reason I love this film so much right now is really because it is such a relieving breath of fresh air. A film made by people who cared. If you watched my last video, you know what I love in fiction, and this is it. This film was made with a vision and solid craft to drive it, by people who knew what they were doing and truly wanted it to be the best that it could be. There was passion behind it, and that's something I need more of now. Maybe in another time this movie wouldn't impress me quite so much, but right now I'm blown away, and I need more. Anyway, that's all I have to say on The Batman. One of the things I intend to do a lot here is to propose alterations to films with the intent of improving them. So if you want me to revisit this one sometime to see what changes could fix the bigger problems, please like and share this video. I'd love to do it. As always, thanks for watching, and never stay silent.